At 3:27 a.m., the black SUV that had been idling under the gas station light slid away like a shadow, remembering where to hide. On my kitchen table, the burner phone glowed with a single line I couldn't unread. "You are active until further notice." That was the second worst thing I'd seen that year. The worst thing was a 1-minute, 38-second video with no sound. Just a girl on a windowsill, beige walls, a radiator, a calendar with no month, and the calmness of someone who had been taught that obedience was freedom. I watched it twice, then wished I'd never learned how to look. Before I tell you the rest, a quick word so I can sleep at night. I tell stories, yes, but I tell them to keep people breathing. The cases, names, and sequences here are stitched from reports, arrests, interviews, and my own notes. Some parts are disputed, some parts are unverifiable. All of it is meant to warn, not to instruct. If anything in this pulls you toward darkness, stop here and go talk to someone who will stand in the doorway with you until the sun comes up. There are people who will, I promise. I joined a cybercrime task force in Eastern Europe in 2017. The job description looked like a thriller. The job looked like paperwork. We lived inside spreadsheets and midnight coffee. We sat with frightened parents and translated silence from the glow of a phone. The rumors we'd heard for months had a shape by then. The so-called blue whale phenomenon, 50 days of escalating tasks doled out by anonymous curators, ending if the child didn't break the chain in the unthinkable. Headlines weren't evidence, but the cases were real enough to leave scars. The first time I went undercover, I was 14 again on paper. I built her carefully. A school photo with a smile she didn't trust, a VK account, a diary that read like breathing through a wet cloth, a music playlist that said, "I want to be seen without saying I am desperate." Her name was Masha. The first message came far too fast, as if I'd been expected. "Want to play? Prove you're committed. Show your arm." There was no, "Are you okay?" There rarely is when someone wants to own you. We'd hoped for a mastermind because stories like clean villains. There was no mastermind. There was a pattern. Dozens of groups shared the same script like a curse that could be photocopied. Wake up too early. Keep secrets. Cut ties. Test your pain. Prove your loyalty. And finally disappear. Some curators were barely older than their targets, parroting what had been done to them. Others were adults who collected pain like antiques. One ran his network from a basic apartment outside Yaroslavl. 2 jobs, old laptop, folders labeled like chore. He had screenshots of girls holding up razor blades as if they were hall passes. He had audio of crying cataloged by date. He had a link to a memorial page stamped with a time that matched a log entry. Last task completed. That was not trolling, that was accounting. We sat with parents who used words like, "I had no idea and I thought she was just drawing whales," and she said she was training. A father learned his daughter's secret when the school called after she fainted. She had carved a symbol into her ribs with a pencil sharpener blade. Not because the shape mattered, but because she had been told it did. One girl, asked why she kept tracing the same outline on her skin during class, said calmly, "It's for later." Another teenager, rescued on a day no one thought would end, whispered, "He said I wouldn't feel tired after day 30. She meant breathing, not naps. One case, let me call her Alacia, was 14 in a building that hadn't been loved since 1980. Her parents worked opposite shifts. They thought she watched makeup tutorials in her room. We found her because a curator forgot to wipe a voice note on a seized drive, and we traced the SIM she no longer used. She opened the door like she'd been expecting a package. She did not ask what this was about. She knew. He told me my parents would suffer if I stopped. She wasn't superstitious. She had proof. He'd asked for a photo of her mother asleep on the couch. Loyalty task, he called it. From that moment on, the photo did the work for him. A boy and hungry, straight A's, never late, copied the sequence by hand into a notebook. 43 boxes checked in his neat script. No PDF, no screenshot. That meant someone read it to him, or he copied it manually. Even when he was safe, he would not give the name. Not to me, not to the psychologist, not to anyone. He kept saying they stopped texting when I asked about the last part. His window was 8th floor. His sister found him testing the edge like a scientist. We seized a laptop in 2017 that didn't make news. The man was a small node, careless with logins. Most of his files were what we expected: canned instructions, timestamps, proof demands, shaming. Buried under a renamed recycle bin was a folder like a locked room with curtains drawn. 6 videos. 5 I was not allowed to keep. 1 I reviewed twice. That was enough. The girl on the windowsill. Calm, like someone who had been practiced. A nod toward the person holding the camera, because she wasn't filming this. A notepad. I did everything. You said I'm free now. The video cut before what you think. It didn't need to show anything more. The metadata did that. 2 hours later, she was found outside the same building. The file was passed through 7 Telegram accounts like a trophy, then tucked into a curator's archive under a category labeled Wins. People ask me, was it all online? No. The internet was a corridor. The door at the end was real. Kids stopped sleeping, stopped eating, stopped arguing. They didn't isolate because a rule said, cut your friends. They isolated because exhaustion does the job better than any curator could. The structure is the trap. After the arrests, the platforms cut down trees, groups, hashtags, keywords, and the forest went quiet. But the seeds were wind-borne, whisper chains, YouTube mirrors. Later, trends put on different masks: Momo, Jonathan Galindo, but the skeleton didn't change. Find the lonely. Escalate the dare. Demand proof. Hold it over them. Ride the shame. One night at 2:40 a.m., months after I handed Masha to a team trained to do what came next, I checked the dead account like you check a scar. The friends list was empty. Messages had been scrubbed. But a new request waited from a handle with no face. Do you still want to play? I logged out, screenshotted, reported. In the morning, it was gone. Not magically. Deleted by someone who knew how to run. If you think this is the part where I tell you we raided a room and saved the world, I'm sorry. The main wave slowed because the lights got bright. Interpol memos, school letters, national news. But you can't arrest a script. You can only teach people to stop reading from it. That was the year I learned to look at phones like doors. Which brings me to the storage unit and the cooler and the phone taped to the lid. My brother Matt was the human version of a label maker. His shirts lived in chromatic order. He had a calendar for meal prep. He had an opinion about sock folding. He was not a courier in any sense I recognized until I watched a grainy local news segment of 2 dark SUVs outside a public storage building and saw him walking between 2 men in vests. No cuffs, no panic. Just the look of someone who knew the script and hated the end. He did not tell me he had a storage unit. I found the spare key in his sock drawer. Unit 140. The door rolled up like a yawn. The space was nearly empty. 1 metal shelf, a stool, a portable charger, a small cooler, no food. Inside the lid, taped where no one would look, a burner phone with 3 messages already waiting like a trap that had caught the wrong animal. Confirm, pickup 9:15 p.m. Code MXF 312. Request window closed. Secondary courier compromised, do not forward texts. That last one was time-stamped half an hour before the SUVs arrived. I didn't text back. I didn't factory reset. I took pictures in my head and left. That night, my own phone buzzed with a number I didn't know and a tone I'd only ever heard in interrogation rooms. If you took the phone from Unit 1407, don't power it down. Don't factory reset. Don't share this. 10 seconds later, Your brother already told us what we needed. Now we're watching who else comes looking. It was not a threat. It was a policy. The letter in my mailbox said delivered to 1989, Madison Street, black mailbox, 3 o'clock. Don't park on the same street, don't knock, don't look back. The address belonged to a building with boarded windows and a rusted box bolted to brick. No tenants, no signage. Places like that exist, so instructions have somewhere to land. There was already an envelope waiting for me, black paper, sealed, tucked behind the plastic lining above my passenger side wheel. I don't know how long it had lived there. I did the drop. The phone rewarded me like a dog clicker. Courier confirmed. Status green. Wait for next task. I wasn't being threatened. I was being hired. I phoned a man I barely trusted who owed me a favor, someone who could tell me if a black SUV outside your house was coincidence or choreography. He canceled after a Tahoe idled beside his curb for 2 hours, and his children asked if the men inside were sleeping. The next instruction told me to pick up a mobile order at a Starbucks under the name Ellis. Take the bag, leave, do not open it, do not linger. I did not linger, I did open it. Under the sandwich, taped flat, a manila folder full of black and white stills of the same man from different angles. Courthouse steps, parking garage, street corner, briefcase, badge clip. The last photo was not a still, it was an ending. The man was tied to a chair in a warehouse with a wet floor, eyes open, head tipped, body insisting on the dignity the photo tried to deny him. Beneath the stack, a sheet. This is what happens when you breach protocol. This is not espionage. This is correction. Couriers deliver. His name was all over the missing persons lists if you knew what to type. Dr. Stephen R. Cole, Homeland Cybersecurity Analyst, last seen 2 weeks earlier. No updates, no discovery. The photo didn't exist where the public could see it. It existed where it could be shown to me. Locker 44 at the transit station held a second burner phone with one contact labeled MX. My stomach forgot how to behave. I typed with my thumb like it mattered. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again, like someone choosing courage in drafts. Then a message that did not breathe like my brother's but knew what he knew. You're in deeper than you realize. They're not after leaks, they're baiting reaction. Each drop is designed to push someone into the open. It has to look like a mistake. They want chaos that looks organic. Are you safe? Silence like a door closing without a click. Are you under arrest? Nothing. 10 minutes later. They don't have sides, it's leverage. Everyone wants to look clean. Couriers hold what others can't be seen touching. You're next because you looked. I killed the phone and buried it in a metal toolbox like a superstition. My personal phone chimed later with a 7-second voicemail from a number that did not exist. Don't speak to Courier 1 again. You're active now. Courier 1. That is what they were calling my brother. They had reduced him to a role as if his name were a variable in a math problem that hurt people. I met a man once at a tech conference who could make a charger into a signal jammer with a vape battery. He told me the system coordinating the drops wasn't a web server or a backroom chat. It was a peer-to-peer mesh that ate its own traces as it moved. Arcline, he called it. Not a company, not an app, a coordination parasite. Every scan, every pickup, every timing ping relayed between phones that never called themselves phones. You join the network by doing what you're told. The only way to leave is to fail on purpose so loudly the system spits you out. He warned me that failing on purpose generates consequences. The next QR code didn't point at a station. It pointed at a house I recognized against my will. Matt's ex used to live there. We'd carried boxes out of her living room the year they ended and pretended it wasn't a funeral. The blinds now were half closed. A different car sat in the drive. A strip of red tape hid under the mailbox flap. Inside, a prepaid envelope was already sealed and addressed to Matthew Landry, care of a law firm that specialized in whistleblower protections. Not criminal defense, protection. One of those firms you call when you're about to hand someone a match and a fuse and need immunity when the documentary drops. I took the envelope home and opened it with a glove because rituals are calming. One flash drive wrapped in anti-static plastic. A label written by hand. Timestamp. 11/17/23, the day before he was taken. I didn't plug it into anything that touched the world. I used an air-gapped machine that hadn't been online since it left the box. One uncompressed video file. The first clip. A courtroom security camera from the back of the room, as a judge accepted a folder from a man in a gray suit. The second clip. A parking garage where the same man handed what looked like the same folder to someone in a hoodie. The timestamps overlapped by 40 minutes. Either the man bifurcated his afternoon, or someone was doing surgery on official record systems. I wiped the machine when the video ended. I crushed the flash drive to crumbs with a bench vise. When I took the pieces to the trash behind a different building, the Tahoe across the road swallowed its lights and drifted away with the calm of a decision made. That morning at 10, the first burner woke with a new message. Courier ID escalated. You held material. You breached delivery. You are now ineligible for removal. Do not speak to the firm. Do not approach recipients. You are active until further notice. It read like a spell that translated to, we decide when you get to leave. 3 days later, a woman called from an office I could not verify. Not FBI, not DHS. A different set of syllables that makes you feel like the map is wrong. She asked one question. Did your brother share anything after his arrest? I said no, because my mouth was smarter than my heart. She said he was relocated yesterday. That's all I can tell you. The number died before I could ask whether relocated meant an orange jumpsuit or a lifetime of aliases or a door with no handle. A letter arrived the same day, unmarked, perfectly folded. Courier ID void. Do not retain any materials. Do not discuss prior actions publicly or privately. Do not seek out contacts or facilities. Violation triggers protocol. Case status closed. Closed to them is not the same as closed to you. Matt's name never appeared in the public database. No charges, no arraignment, no docket entries that would make my mother feel like something existed we could point to and call real. A week later, a FedEx box arrived with a prepaid phone still sealed and a sticky note that said, "You didn't fail me." I failed both of us. Don't answer if it ever rings. The phone turned on the moment the charger kissed it. One saved voicemail, time stamped the night he was taken. They'll say, I didn't. I left enough to bait the hook. This isn't about me leaking. It's about them testing. They watch who responds, who looks, who pays attention. If you got this far, it means you passed a test you were never supposed to know you were taking. I'm sorry. I put the phone in a box behind an old Xbox. I have not touched it since. The task force had taught me how to map patterns and ignore noise, so I mapped. Drops weren't about payloads. They were about choreography. A courthouse, a garage, a law firm that protects whistleblowers. A photo of a dead man labeled correction instead of murder. A message that called me active like a light turned on. You can argue about who's on which team when you're cheering from the bleachers. When you're on the field, what you feel is pressure, not jerseys. The strangest part of doing both these things, surfing a suicide script and walking through a Courier maze, is noticing how alike they are under the costumes. Isolation first, escalation second, proof demanded, shame weaponized, threats whispered, the lure of belonging dressed up as purpose. The slow replacement of your judgment with someone else's routine. I didn't start waking at 4:20 a.m. because I wanted to. I started because 4 months of logs taught my body that hour was important. Scripts are viruses. You can be vaccinated with awareness, but you still have to wash your hands. I wish this was where I cut to black and said, and that's how I stopped it. Stopping looks smaller than that. It looks like refusing a message because it tells you not to look back. It looks like unscrewing a SIM card and burying it in foil and choosing not to open the next door even though you want to know what's behind it. It looks like not bragging about the time you outsmarted a system because attention is the oxygen that ugly things breathe. I think about Alessia more than I think about the man in the gray suit. Maybe that's because I know which story I can change. Systems like Arcline learn faster than humans do, but scripts that hunt kids die if a single adult insists on leaning in and saying, "Tell me anyway, show me anyway, I will not leave." The night after the Tahoe disappeared for good, I made tea because rituals work even when you think they won't. I stood at the window and let the streetlight make my kitchen floors honest. The phones were nested inside other phones, inside metal boxes like worry dolls. I took a breath and pretended I could hear the city breathing back. A message slid under the door of my mind that wasn't from any network. It said this: "The people who manipulate you want you to keep secrets for them. The people who love you will hold your secrets until you're ready to put them down." I wrote it on a sticky note and put it on my fridge because sometimes we forget. I'm not naive. The patterns didn't stop because I wrote them down. But the next time a parent sits across from me and says, "I don't even know where to start," I will tell them. Start with the phone. Start with the sleep. Start with quiet questions and the promise that you'll be calm however bad the answer is. You can't out-logic shame. You can only out-love it. A few months after the letter that called my brother void, a plain envelope arrived with no return address, and the kind of stamp you buy at a drugstore when you don't want to stand in line. Inside was one photograph, not of a person, but of a hallway. White walls, uniform doors, a red exit sign that looked American. In the reflection of a window, I could see the shadow of a man whose posture I recognized, even though the outline didn't give me his face. It was the posture of someone who still organized his shirts by color, even when no one could see the closet. I burned the photo after I looked at it long enough to memorize the direction the exit sign pointed. It was petty and useless, and it made me feel less like a pawn for 10 minutes. Sometimes 10 minutes is what you get. The last time I logged into the dead profile that still said Masha in a corner of the internet no one uses anymore, I didn't do it because of a case. I did it because remembering is part of the job. The groups were gone. The messages were gone. The request queue was empty. I stared at the icon like a gravestone, then deleted the account for real. If another message comes, it won't be for me. It will be for a kid I haven't met yet. I want that kid to find a wall, not an open door. If this all feels like a knot, good. Knots are harder to pull apart than threads. But if your throat feels tight because part of you recognized yourself in the script, pause here. No story is worth your breath. Nothing you saw, clicked, read, texted, or whispered makes you unworthy of help. If you need it now, there are people awake in your country this second whose only job is to keep you company until it hurts less. In the U.S., call or text 988. In the UK and Ireland, dial 116-123 for Samaritans. If you're elsewhere, search Find a Helpline and the name of your country. I know it feels like this is only for other people. It isn't. It is for you. I don't know where my brother is. I know what he told me, that the test you pass is the one you were never supposed to know you were taking. I hate that sentence and love it because it means he believed I could pass without being told how. It means he thought I would keep walking even when a message warned me not to look back. So, here's what I'll do next. I will keep telling stories that borrow fear only to return it slightly smaller. I will keep secrets that belong to the living and burn the ones that belong to the dead. I will drink tea at the hour my body remembers and then go back to sleep. I will answer late-night messages that begin with "I don't want to bother you," because the people we lose most often are the ones who didn't want to be a problem. If someday a plain phone rings in a locked box and the voice on the other end says a name I have not spoken aloud in a year, I will listen. I will not ask the questions I can't afford to know the answers to. I will say the only thing that feels true: I'm here. And if you're still listening, if you've made it through the SUV and the cooler and the windowsill and the courthouse and the red tape and the mailbox with the strip no one else noticed, then you've done what I asked when we began. You've stayed. You've kept breathing. You've held a knot without letting it tighten around your wrists. That's the hardest part. Some nights I stand outside and look at the sky like it's a big, unblinking eye. I remind myself that platforms won't save us, and neither will punishments alone. People save people. Curators ask for proof to hold you hostage. I'm asking for a different proof. Prove you're still here tomorrow. Prove you'll text the friend you ignored because you felt ashamed. Prove you'll sleep until morning, and then wake up late and make a mess and watch something ridiculous and let the coffee get cold on the counter because you were laughing. If the script in your head still whispers that obedience is freedom, write a new line under it. Freedom is time. Time is breath. Breath is the only proof that matters. The SUV hasn't come back. The phones stay quiet most days. The city breathes. Somewhere, a girl is drawing a whale on her notebook in ink instead of on her skin, because a teacher chose the right words at the right minute. Somewhere, a boy who copied numbers by hand is writing different boxes now. Call a friend, eat something, breathe, sleep, repeat. Somewhere, a courier system pinged for a drop and got a silent refusal from a mule it thought it owned. In a room with no windows, a man who loves order stacks his folded shirts by color, because there are places inside the world where neatness is the only rebellion you get. And here, in this kitchen with the sticky note on the fridge and the tea cooling, I choose a small, unremarkable act that no system can catalog. I put my hand on the table and feel the grain of wood and say out loud to no one, "I will be here tomorrow." Then I mean it.